I believe in a party that's pro-science. I want a candidate who is pro-science. I am sick and tired of hearing the science is settled and follow the science. Follow the science. The science is settled. Blah, blah, blah. Science is predicated. I have a BA, but I understand when I hear BS, okay? Science is predicated on skepticism, laced with more skepticism. The act of suspending judgment, you see, forces objectivity in science. The scientific method, remember that? It's a method of research in which a problem is identified and relevant data is gathered. A hypothesis is formulated from this data, and the hypothesis is empirically tested. Scientific theory generally requires falsifiability. So when you tell me, wear a mask because we got to follow the science, I'm still looking for the definitive journal article where somebody can tell me that a dirty piece of cloth that I'm wearing every day without washing, loosely fitted on my face, is going to keep these tiny 0.1 microns germs from getting to me. I'm waiting for that definitive science, but nonetheless, we follow the science, which means we follow guys like this doctor of opinions that, okay, wear goggles and you can have casual sex, but make sure you wear a mask. Don't shake hands. Crowds are dangerous unless you're going to protest peacefully, of course. Don't sing in church. Summed up by this guy right here. Who is this guy? Tedra, I can't even pronounce his name, and I don't want to. This guy is the director of who? Director of what? No, this director of who? But he's the first director general of who? WHO, without a medical degree. Why am I listening to what this guy says? He's a politician in the pocket of China. Why should we listen to anything that WHO says? No, I'm talking about why we should listen to anything that WHO says. And of course, Greta Thunberg, how dare you? How dare you? You know, I never liked the saying when I was a kid, but it's a classic. Some children should be seen and not heard. And here's the classic example. Here's the definition of one, right? Speaking on what she does not know. Science, follow the science. How is climate change falsifiable? How can you empirically study it and test it? All you can do is observe. It's not science, it's simply hypothesis. So don't ever believe someone who says that on issues of science that it's settled and follow the science, or you're, I don't know, anti-science, I don't know, whatever. So if you believe in science, laced more with skepticism than ideology, and I do, Democrat Party's not for you. How about pro-family? I want a candidate who's pro-family. So if I believe that marriage is the union of one man and one woman, Democrat Party is not for you. By the way, that is specifically in the Republican platform, that marriage is identified as the union of one man and one woman, even though it's politically incorrect to say, it's still in the Republican Party platform, and that is for me. I want a candidate who is pro-sex, not gender. Pro-sex, not gender. You know, Judges speaks of a time like ours. In those days, there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes. In our society today, everybody did what's right in his own eyes, making it up as they go along, whatever. Let's listen to what candidate Biden has to say.
That an 8-year-old child or a 10-year-old child decides, you know, I decided I want to be transgender. That's what I think I'd like to be. It'll make my life a lot easier. There should be zero discrimination. And what's happening is too many transgender women of color are being murdered. They're being murdered. I mean, I think it's up to now 17. Don't
Yeah,
hold
yeah,
me to
yeah.
that number.
But what you
it's-
just
it's-
said
it's
was?
It's higher now?
Yeah.
And that's just this year. And so I promise you, there is no reason to suggest that there should be any right denied your daughter or daughters, whichever, one or two. One, your daughter, that your other daughter has a right to be and do.
Right. So if you want to allow your 8-year-old child to live in a transgender state, there should be no discrimination. Thank you, Vice President Biden, for making it so clear. Now, there's a lot of articles, I did search on this, there's a lot of articles that are trying to explain away what Vice President Biden said. No, he really didn't mean transition. He really didn't mean what he actually said. He said what he said. I heard what he said, and you did too. And that is followed up. In case there's any ambiguity, let's be clear. Transgender equality is the civil rights issue of our time. He texted, there is no room for compromise when it comes to basic human rights. I'm sorry, I do not believe that subjecting an 8-year-old child to the whims of transgender ideology is basic human rights. I believe it's child abuse, and I want a candidate who will stand up for our children. I do not want a candidate. I do not want a president. I don't want a party. I don't want a government that's going to enforce. How can I say this? Let's just say that I do not want a candidate who's going to identify as science what the Psychological Institute up till last year or the year before viewed as an aberration, as dysphoria. Some of you remember this record. Do you remember Marlo Thomas and Friends, Free to Be You and Me? Rosie Greer, Alan Alda. You had the two babies. Hey, I'm a baby. So am I. It was a great album. Came out in 1972. I was 7 years old in 1972. And it was all about the ideology at that time that the left was pushing, is that there's no real difference between men and women, right? Boys and girls. You had the unisex clothing, and anything the boy can do, a girl can do. Anything a girl can do, a boy can do, right? So what's being taught by the left today regarding the fluidity of gender certainly undermines every principle taught by the left when I was a child in Free to Be You and Me, one of the best-selling albums of all time. Still sells today, incongruously. Marlo Thomas told girls they could be anything, but never, ever did she say they could be boys. That was contrary to the whole point of the album. Rosie Greer sang to boys that it's all right to cry. And Alan Alda told boys it was okay to play with dolls. And he wasn't referencing action figures. Mel Brooks and Marlo Thomas humorously identified themselves eventually as, respectively, a baby boy and a baby girl, identifiable as such by their obvious equipment. Oh, you're a girl, I'm a boy because of our equipment. Yet what was obvious to an infant in 1972 is perplexing to gender studies professors in 2020. See, today, if a boy wanted to play with girls, with dolls, rather, a boy wants to play with girls, the Freudian slip I've ever heard. If a boy wants to play with dolls, today you would say, maybe it's a girl trapped in my boy's body. No, it's just a boy who wants to play. And if a girl wanted to play with fire trucks, or if she wanted to compete in sport, that's not a boy in the girl's body. She's simply expressing a preference. I can't even use that term anymore, right? Mazie Hirono, right? You can't have it both ways. So if you believe that a man is not a woman and a woman's not a man, the Democrat Party is not for you. Got another